In 2003, Luke and I landed in a brand new environment, and we had no idea what we were supposed to do. So we started with what we were already doing. I was teaching at the local law school at the time, and one day we invited the students to a meal. In the course of our conversation, we told them we were Christians, and they just drew their breath in disbelief. They said, "We have no idea Christians can be intellectuals." And that's when we realized how ignorant and misguided these students were about God. And it also occurred to us that most people are like that, aren't they? Even in a free country, most people are ignorant and misguided about God. This is why people reject God. If people truly know God for who He really is, no one in their right minds would reject God. Just like no normal person would reject peace, power, or healing, or life, right? So we need to approach a non-believer with the right assumption that they actually want and need the one true God, and that they have every reason to reject a false God, which is probably the one they perceive to be God at the moment. So understanding a non-believer's misunderstanding is key. And those critical conversations where God is introduced in a way that speaks goodness to them is also key. So as we got to know the students more, it became clear that these students had more questions about life and about law. They needed someone to empathize with them. They wanted to know the meaning of life. They wanted to know how to resolve conflicts with their parents. They wanted to know how to find their significant others and so on and so forth. They wanted to practice oral and listening English skills, so they often looked us up. And that's when we realized, hey, their needs are actually our opportunity. We can attract them with God's goodness and what they perceive to be a benefit. We realized that we have the resources to meet those needs while introducing the gospel to them. So we invited them to our home and had guests come through speaking English and introducing the topics of the day. And then 40 minutes later, I would come on and introduce Christian songs to them and explain the meaning behind the songs. And then would belt out to their heart's content, and the Holy Spirit worked through their prophetic utterances about getting to know Jesus, even as atheists. And then 40 minutes later, Luke got up and talked about life topic that we knew mattered to them. We called it Life Talk. And then we fed them lunch for free, of course. The point is, they were attracted by these goodness and benefits. And a year later, we had close to 100 students. And a few years later, we had to rent another building to accommodate the 200 non-believers that came every week. Over the years, tens and thousands of students have gone through our outreach platforms, which later grew into different focus, from focusing on students to young careers to families and, of course, children and then elders. Years later, when we look back, we realized that this was our stage one, attracting non-believers with goodness. Sure, there were people who thought they were coming to a seminar and heard the word Jesus and did a 180-degree and walked right out. But we accepted that because it's perfectly normal for a non-believer to embrace a superficial and worldly belief system. I mean, think about it. It's normal. They have no spiritual appetite yet because they haven't tasted the goodness of God. So that's why in stage one, we make sure the program flows smoothly so that the first-timers can quickly taste goodness in one form or another, at least the ones they can appreciate. And we do that by making sure that we keep to the 4 essential elements of every outreach program. 4E stands for excellence, excitement, efficiency, and effectiveness. And that's how we till the soil of a non-believer's heart, making it more receptive to the sowing of the seed of life. If you're interested in knowing more about the 4 E's, you can find more explanation in our Stage 1 classes. Of course, once the recording is done and we put it up. But the point is, once the first-timer tastes what they perceive to be goodness, whether it's an excellent program or speaker or excitement in the air or efficiency in the way things are delivered or effectiveness in reaching their heart, and these are all good, but at that point, they are then faced with a little bit of dilemma. Do I want to come back? You see, on the one hand, they have a spiritual resistance to God because we're all sinners and sinners have an impulse to hide from God. And on the other hand, they're curious and skeptical about Christians. Why would you be so nice to me? And why are you so patient with me? What do you want from me? Is it just to convert me, or do you really care about me? So at that point, our authenticity may make all the difference in whether someone would move into stage 2. And these are all the concepts we talk about in our stage 1 training for believers and servers. So let's summarize the traits of a stage 1 person. We at the Bridge, we have a nickname for them. We call them white tags, which stands for blank slate. Don't worry, it's not a label, as it is a reminder for us to pay extra attention to them in our outreach program. We look out for white tags to make sure they feel extra welcomed and make sure they aren't bored or feeling awkward, because first impressions are hard to erase, right? And we want them to come back. So we're aware that every person serving at the outreach will make an imprint to the white tag as to what a Jesus follower is like. And so here's some keywords to help you be more sensitive to a white tag, or you can call them guests, or you can call them stage 1 beneficiary to God's goodness. First of all, they're curious about the benefits that you're offering to them, or a service that you're proffering, whether it will really meet a true need that they have. And if the activity is promoted attractively, they'll be intrigued. They might be a little skeptical about the goodness presented. They may even be suspicious about the true motive of the people who seem so nice to them. And even though they may be enjoying the quality of the attention and seeing a potential solution to a personal problem or need, they may also be weighing the benefit and the cost of coming back, whether it'll be worth it all. One thing we need to remember is not to treat every first-timer as a seeker. You see, we don't assume that they have a desire for God. In fact, they may have zero spiritual appetite. So don't be surprised if a first-timer seemed guarded or uninterested or even turned off by spiritual talks. We look at it as a journey into the unknown. You just never know when they may one day become a pastor. We've been down this road a few times, so we no longer assume anything about anyone, but just keep in mind that God is all-powerful and His ways are above our ways. We just keep our outreaches going faithfully and see what He will do. Well, at least we know one thing: they're here, and that's already half the battle.